Hey, internet friend, this is me, Bradley G, here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I welcome you to Synergy Cafe. I don't have my cup with me today, but that's because it's afternoon and I'm not really drinking that much coffee, even though it sounds like I'm all wired up. So we are having some technical difficulties. My friend Chris Miles, it has Money Ripples, is his company, and he teaches about passive income and things of that sort. He's not here, so I'm just going to talk to you a little bit and see if he pops in. He might be, trying to figure things out. It's weird. I had this thing hooked up for LinkedIn as well. I mean, right now we're live on YouTube and on Facebook, and I had it hooked onto LinkedIn, and there was a time differentiation, which was kind of weird because I had it scheduled for 1 p.m. here at Central Time, and it showed up on LinkedIn as 8 p.m. So I was doing some things with that, and I hope that he didn't see that and think that we're going to be meeting at 8 p.m. because on my Google Calendar, it does show 1 p.m. So that's the story, Morning Glory. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about Chris. I've interviewed him before. He's an interesting guy because he's sort of unorthodox, and his Money Ripples, he kind of goes upstream or side stream, or doesn't go with the status quo. He's kind of going with a different flow. I should be a rapper. No, I think not. So what he's going to be talking about when he comes on, if he doesn't, I will just share with you, is this concept called infinite banking. I don't know that much about it, and that's why I just asked the questions to Chris, and he explains it. And he's got some different things on his website. Let me put his website thing up here so you can actually see that. And 1 second, stand by 1 second here. Here it is. That's it right there. That's his website. And you can learn more about Chris. He's out down in, I think he's out in Utah, Southwest United States. And that's his website right there. And he, again, talks about stuff like infinite banking and passive income generation. So he's got multiple courses that he shares and does in-person consulting and one-on-one consulting. He's also got his own podcast, and I think it's on most of the podcast platforms and on good old YouTube. And I'm connected with him on LinkedIn, which is kind of frustrating because LinkedIn didn't work for me this time here. So it was a little bit challenging. So right now it's 1:03 per my little device here. The whole concept of passive income, some people say passive income doesn't exist. And it depends on your definition of what passive income is. To me, it's about doing something now, and then you get the income later. And it's also about, it's not so much a direct transaction kind of thing, like you might go to a coffee shop and you give them money, they give you coffee. Passive income is more, you put together a marketing funnel and an automated campaign that generates leads, and you take it and start doing some Facebook ads or some Google ads, or I use a lot of direct mail postcards with QR codes on them. Oh, I just heard my friend Chris pop into the green room. I heard a little knock on the digital door there. So I'm going to actually go get him, and he can explain a lot of this stuff much better than I can, and I will ask him some questions. So let's go find Chris. Is Chris there? Where's Chris?
Right here.
Hey, did you get caught
Just like
in
magic? Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the fun thing about coming back from out of town. You realize, oh my goodness, I need to get the right camera on. So
well,
here
I
I
was just
am.
sharing some of that technology and stuff, because I had this thing scheduled for 1 o'clock, and somehow on LinkedIn it showed it at 8 p.m. And I couldn't figure that out, so I had to jump through some hoops. And I also got a little, I had a intro thing worked out that I had done on Fiverr quite a few years ago, and I just got a little thing from YouTube that said that I'm violating some copyright rights.
Wow.
I'm not able to monetize, which I'm not monetized on YouTube or anything like that, but
yeah,
just technology issues. It's kind of nice to, I like that we can use the internet to connect like this, but that's about it.
Uh-huh.
All the other stuff is crazy. So how have you been?
I have been fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I'm freezing back in Utah. I was just spent the last week in Florida, which was amazing. But now I'm back in Utah. I've got to wear sweaters again, right?
You know where I live, right?
Tell me.
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I can't complain. Never mind.
Yes. It's cold with those short sleeve shirts, isn't it, down there in Utah?
Yeah. Yeah. Wear shorts on those 60-degree days because you're like, ooh, it's balmy today, right?
But we're actually having a really mild winter. There's not snow on the ground and stuff. It's been kind of warm, so the global warming thing is affecting Minneapolis.
Finally, I know we had global cooling last year, so I'm glad we're finally warming up. You know, I want Gore to be right on for this very reason, just so I can not have to like bundle up so much.
So I got to ask, what prompted you to rattle my cage again?
Yeah, like I know you always have some great guests, and definitely the thing is, I mean, I guess money just never goes out of favor, right? And specifically, I mean like freedom when it comes to money. Really that freedom, that passive income. I mean, there are so many, especially right now. I mean, it's funny when you watch the media, you'd swear that you can't tell if the sky is falling or if we're about to have like the best year ever, right? Because the media, whatever they want to do, they want to make sure they sway you one direction or the other. But the one thing you can count on is the media is about as accurate as the weatherman,
Sure.
because they're just trying to sell you on crap, right? They're just trying to sell you on fear or sell you on something that gets you to click.
Right.
And
There's a
and
big
that just drives me
snowstorm
nuts.
coming in the front. It's going to be 8 foot snow drifts. Prepare yourself. Lock the doors. Oh,
Snowmageddon, and then it snows 2 inches, right?
yeah.
It's like a snow flirt. Yeah, that's kind of like what it is in the financial world too with money. And so what I'm seeing more and more, there's people just scared. Like they don't know which way to turn. They don't know what to do. And so they usually just stay on the current path they're on. The problem is if you're on a path like most people are, you're going to get results like most people get, which is not a good thing. Because the truth is that, when we've been taught forever, and I was taught the same thing, right? Is that you're supposed to save everything, spend nothing, save it forever, throw it away in the stock market, and hopefully someday you might have something,
Or
right?
worse,
That's
you don't
really
save
what
it
we're
in a
always taught.
regular bank account. You just put it in your savings account.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're scared of the stock market, put it in the savings account where you earn point nothing percent, and then you find out that inflation just kicked your butt that year, right?
Right.
And so we get that the problem with all that, and then they tell you to pay down all your debt. Even if it's low interest, like you pay less than 3% interest on your house, well, pay it off. Well, if inflation's more than that, shouldn't I wait till my dollars are worth nothing and then use those worthless dollars to pay off my mortgage instead of trying to pay it off early while it's still worth something?
Right.
Like you get all this weird advice, but at the same time, people are like, yeah, but what do I do with that money? Like, where can I put it where it'd be safe, where I can actually get something that would make it work better? And it's true because if you talk to any financial advisors, and I used to be one of them 20 years ago, financial advisor will tell you just put it with me, right? And why do they say that? Because that's how they get paid. They get paid when you put money there, right? Like I was just talking to a guy today, had like 150 grand in his IRA, and he said, yeah, I'm reaching out because every time I talk to a financial advisor or a broker, it's the same thing. They're like, save money in my bank, put it in the stock market, pay off my house. He's like, I'm getting kind of bored of that advice because it hasn't worked for me so far over the
Right.
years. And
Yeah.
so he's like,
You would say to
"Mhm."
the advisor, I'll have what you're having.
Yeah. And usually the advisor's like, well, I'm just charging you money whether you make money or not. That's what's really happening, right? They're charging you like 1% or more to manage your money when they're not doing jack squat with your money, right? The
Share a
market.
little bit about what good debt and bad debt, because people look at debt. It seems like all debt is bad debt.
It
That's
depends. I think it's more like who's a good person with debt versus a bad person with debt, or who's a wise steward versus a bad steward. Because the truth is, if you're a wise steward with money, that's not a thing that you fear. If you're an unwise steward, if you're somebody that's bad with money, that's always going to be bad,
well, I mean,
right? Because
some people will say that their boat is an investment. You
well,
know?
it depends how you define that, I guess, right?
Right. I'm
Um,
really, really into fishing, so it means a lot to me. And
yeah, I
maybe
mean that's the thing. Like, my opinion is, if you're not going to use something, lose it. If you're not going to use it, lose it. Get rid of it, sell it, donate it, whatever, so you can get a tax break, something like that. But I mean, like I actually had somebody who had that very same thing. They're actually in North Dakota, right next door to you, and we actually helped them free up $6,000 a month without even investing, just by helping them consolidate some debt, pay off some loans. improved their cash flow by $6,000 a month, to the point where the guy felt he didn't have to keep working 5+ days a week. He now was able to take a weekend off and actually relax versus just be crashing for the weekend where he couldn't be with his family.
Was it stuff like get rid of that Netflix account, that kind of stuff?
No, actually, no, he did. So they were actually not that bad. They had just from the recession and everything else, they had racked up a little bit of debt, in their business as well as their personal life. And it wasn't bad debt necessarily. It was just like they had business loans, that they were using, even decent interest rates. They had their own mortgage, but the thing is they could have gone down to a lower interest rate and things like that.
Okay.
And so just by reevaluating their numbers and their situation, and they didn't even know it was possible, I said, actually, if you refinance your house because you got some equity in it, we can actually consolidate all of this into one, pay off a lot of these other loans, including in your business. So then this frees up $6,000 a month of cash flow. And the first thing they did when they freed up that $6,000 a month is bought a $6,000 four-wheeler. And of course, if this were like a Dave Ramsey, he'd be like chewing them out, saying they're stupid, they're dumb, debt is dumb, cash is awesome, that kind of thing. But I knew differently because of really understanding them and knowing them. And the wife said, she's like, I know people might judge us for this, but Chris, you don't understand. Because of that $6,000 a month we freed up, and now we have less stress.
Right.
My husband doesn't feel the need to have to work all the way through Friday, possibly Saturday, and then he's dead for the weekend. He's now working 4 to 4.5 days a week. He takes the whole weekend off, and we use that four-wheeler every weekend with the kids. My husband's now spending time with the family. He's spending time with me, spending time with the kids. I got my husband back, and my kids got their father back.
Right.
And she's like practically in tears. That's the thing, is like everybody talks about the numbers and debt is bad, but the truth is that that's not the case. And granted, he didn't go into debt for this, but in some ways you might say he did, because he's not paying that $6,000 a month to his mortgage payment, right? He could have done that, paid off his debt, but no, he bought that four-wheeler to invest in his family. So
Sure.
for them, that four-wheeler, just like somebody with a boat, could be a good investment. I had another client, they're actually out of Minnesota. They actually had a cabin that they would go to on the lake, and they would go there every single weekend like clockwork, work their tail off all week, but then they would go spend weekends at that cabin to get away. For them, that was an amazing investment. But I had another client who also had a cabin just like them, went twice a year. And this cabin had tons of equity in it too. And I told them, I said, you know what you'd be better off doing? Sell that cabin, get all the equity out, use that to invest. And by getting all the passive income from that, you can more than pay for an Airbnb, and you don't have to be at the same place every time. You can even rotate. You can even go to different places or another lake that you can stay on. You don't have to stay at the same lake in the same location. You can get another viewpoint and rent it for a couple weeks out of the year, just like you're already doing. But now you actually make more than basically you'll have more money coming in than what you had going out for that cabin. So it's always just case by case.
That's why I enjoy talking with you, because when we did that interview before, that you think like you're talking about money, but it's not always about money. Like I had a suit that I had bought years ago, and I bought it at one of those thrift kind of not a thrift store, but a discount place, a nice double-breasted Italian suit. It cost me like $300, but I wore it out. I replaced 2 linings with it. I loved the suit. It was really nice. So I used it a lot. So it was worth $400.
Yeah.
It was an $800 suit, but it lasted long. And then there's a group up here that does these exotic cars. So they got these car condos. And the guy says you could get a cabin up north that you can use like 3 months out of the year in Minnesota. Or you could get a car condo you can use the 365. And the wife would put a kitchenette in there. And you got all those nice cars in there. You can sit and smoke your cigars and drink your cognac. That's a better investment than a cabin up north.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, it's so much more than just the money, isn't it? Right.
Yeah.
It really, even when you talk about the money, ultimately what it should really be is about your life. Like, what is your life really like? What's the richness of that life? And a lot of it doesn't have to do with money at all. I mean, now I'll tell you from my own personal experience, being a guy who actually is, at a point where I am financially independent, right? Where I don't have to work at all. I'm work optional. So I rarely start, I say less and less nowadays, the word retire, because I'm finding more and more people don't want to retire. More and more people just want the freedom to work if they want to, not because they have to.
Well, I've said this is retirement.
That's right. You can retire to a coffin.
Yeah.
But no, it's like, it's really about being work optional. It's having those options, say, you know what, if I want to follow a passion project, I have the means to cover all my bills so that I can go do what I want with whom I want. That to me is a true meaning of life. And not just that, like, and I say this on my show all the time when I open up my Money Ripples podcast. I'll even tell people that you work because you want to, not because you have to. But it's not just about getting rich. It's about living a rich life, because as you are blessed financially, you now have a greater capacity to bless the lives of those around you.
Right.
Because when we're working the 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, depending on your job, you're working your tail off. If you think about it, even though you say you're providing for your family, it's really all about you still. Even if it's your family, it's about you. It's about your little inner circle, your inner network. But as you start to free yourself, and by the way, you don't have to wait till you're financially free to do these things. But what I've noticed, that when people can kind of relax, they could take their mind off of their being able to pay their bills or not. They start to look around them and say, wait a minute, who else can I help? Who else is part
I
of my
think
quote
it
unquote
happened with
family?
the pandemic where people realized they could still pay their rent if they
Mhm,
just gave up the job and got a little Uber gig and a little thing delivering amp for Amazon.
mhm.
Now they can enjoy their life,
They
and that's a
could,
lot
yeah.
different. I was going to ask you, because it was a big aha for me once when someone told me, if you can get your income $1 over your expenses, you're financially free.
That's right.
Just $1. So if you can analyze that, you don't need to be a millionaire.
Mhm.
So is the infinite banking thing, is that a core thing around what you teach?
It's definitely a cool strategy that helps enhance it. Yeah, because the infinite banking thing is not where you make passive income from that directly. And for those that don't know what infinite banking is,
That's what I was going to ask. Can you summarize it? And
yeah, it's basically a tax-free supercharged savings account is what it is. Because let's be honest, especially with inflation always been a discussion, right? I mean, earning point nothing percent at your bank is not a very attractive thing, is it? It's not very sexy. And so people are like, well, where can I store my money? But that money could also be used to invest, right? Now, most people have always been taught the only thing you can do is save up in a 401k or an IRA, right? Save in a retirement account. And by the way, you better hope you're not 30 years old, because you got to wait another 30 years before you can even touch that money. You just got to pack it away and hope that it does something. And so people say, well, what if I could have something that's like, it's like a Roth IRA, but I don't have the 59 and a half rule where I have to wait till I'm 59 and a half years old to touch it. And hey, wouldn't it be cool if I can invest it wherever I want and not just with some crappy financial advisor that gives me bad advice? Or wouldn't it be cool if that money could actually pay me in two places at the same time? That I could actually double dip, that my money can actually work in two places at once, upping all my returns on my investments. That's what this does. And what we're using is what's called a whole life insurance policy, right? Which is
okay.
the unsexiest thing you could ever think of. It's so boring and stable returns, paying you like 5 or 6% a year tax free. But here's the cool thing. And then even though I use this to store my emergency fund in here versus the bank, because I'll make more money here, the cool thing is that when I can actually get a loan against it, right? I can get a loan against it from the insurance company or even a bank, but insurance companies are cheaper right now. I get that loan from it. I can then invest it wherever I want. And then whatever that investment is, as the money comes in from that investment, I use it to pay back towards that loan, that line of
With
credit.
collateral?
It's exactly because it's used as collateral, because it's guaranteed to keep growing. They'll let you, have access up to 95% of it. So say you have 105,000 bucks, right? You can access 100,000 bucks. Well, if I borrow that 100,000, I go and invest it, and say I make 12% a year or 1% a month, 1,000 bucks a month, right? I can take that 1,000 bucks and start paying that back towards that $1,000 loan. Now, here's the cool thing. There are no minimum monthly payments. So it's almost like a home equity line of credit. But if it was like a home equity line of credit where you didn't actually have to make payments every month, they'll charge you interest, but you don't have to make payments. It's like a student loan and deferral, right? But then you could pay it back however, whenever you want. The deadline for paying back that loan is your death, which they just take out of your death benefit because it's a life insurance policy. So they have a death benefit too that you're also paying for. Again, that's almost like three things in one if you think about it. And then that money just pays it off. So if I take that cash flow from that investment, most people will take the cash flow from investment. They invest 100 grand to make 1,000 bucks a month. They take it back. They start replenishing their bank account from zero, slowly building up 1,000 bucks a month at a time. But here, because we borrowed it from the insurance company, that $100,000 is still earning almost roughly about 6% a year tax free, the whole amount. Where if the savings account, you liquidate it, you're not earning anything anymore, right?
What about like a SEP account?
SEP, yeah, you can't do it with a SEP. I mean, the SEP, I mean, you can borrow from those things, but they make you pay your back your interest, right? So it's not, it doesn't give you that ability to really have that compounding effect like you can with this. So it's definitely different. Plus, with a SEP, they also want you to only invest in things that they approve of. So if it's for example, if you want to invest in your own business, you can't do that because that's not allowed in a SEP
Right,
IRA.
'cause it's hooked up to the stock stuff. You got to buy.
Yeah, and
Gotta
you
buy
can do
stock.
real estate. Yeah, and you can do real estate investing with a SEP, but there's certain types of real estate that would be better than others, so, and not all investments are good inside of that thing. So, I talked to that guy today that was getting charged at least $1,500 for a guy to lose his money. He actually had money that was in a SEP, and so, or not a SEP, actually, it was called a self-directed retirement, self-directed IRA. So you can change a SEP to what's called a self-directed account, and then you can invest it in almost any place you want.
Well, that's one of the things that irritate me a little bit about these advisors and all that. They've got all these
Mhm.
weird names for stuff. And I've got a paranoid theory that they do that to keep you on your toes.
Mhm.
It gets frustrating to me, all these different weird names and stuff. And you wonder, okay, where's it all going? And
Yeah.
you realize it might not be going the right spot. It's very
Well,
interesting.
it's like if you go to a Mexican restaurant, right? Like, you ever go to a Mexican restaurant, if it's a really big menu, you're like, "Hey, what's this thing on the menu? What's this?" And then they describe it, they're like, "Oh, it's a tortilla rolled up with these ingredients." "Oh, that sounds like a burrito." Well, it's a little bit different than burrito because we fry it instead of just, soft tortilla. It's a hard tortilla. Oh, why not just call it burrito? That's financial advisors, right? If you really dumb down financial advisors, it's mutual funds and insurances. That's
Did
it.
you
That's
did you
all
get
they can
that
offer.
bit from a comedian?
What's that?
Did you get that bit from a comedian?
No, it's a
There was
truth.
a comedian years ago that he would say, "So Mexican food, what's that? It's a burrito. It's a tortilla with some tomatoes, a little bit of chicken in there, and some salsa and stuff."
And what's
Well,
a taco,
what's a
right?
taco? Well, a taco is like it's got like a tortilla and it's got some tomatoes in there and some meat. And so what's a tostada? Well, it's like a tortilla with
Yeah,
same thing for different names.
it's true, isn't it? Yeah, it's so true. And that's what people don't realize, that they make it so complicated. But in truth, they really are. If you just dumb down what they do, they're just trying to package it differently, giving you different names, making it sound like it's smarter than it really is. They're just telling you, buy mutual funds in the stock market that you have no control over, and also get these kind of insurances, whether it's an annuity or life insurance or whatever it is. That's all they offer. That's all they're licensed to sell. They're not experts. They're not financial experts. Most of them are just as broke, if not broker, than you are. They're just people that are licensed to sell products. That's all they can do.
Yeah, I went to a seminar here in Minneapolis years ago where a guy was talking about this infinite banking thing, and I never really got on board with it. But now you're having me have second thoughts with the because the economy is weird. I don't know where you are with the whole digital currency and crypto and
Uh-huh.
all that stuff. I'm hesitant to get involved with all that, you know, buying money to sell to have money. It's weird to
Uh-huh.
me. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's the thing the good thing is that we're pretty much digital already. When you really think about it, we're kind of a cashless society,
Pretty
right?
much.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's just like the internet. The internet sped up things, which was a good thing, but it also there came a crash afterwards too. I think there might be something similar happening with going digital on the currency too. I think it'll speed some things up, but it'll create some other problems, where they'll have to work out a lot of kinks. But the great thing is, despite us being on the gold standard or non the gold standard, right, and going to different currencies and whatnot, like for life insurance, I trust it more than the banks. I mean, you don't really hear about life insurance companies specifically going out of business. You hear about regional banks going belly up, like Signature Bank, and those kind of banks as well, like especially Silicon Valley and those kind of things. That you hear about those kind of banks going under, but you don't hear that with insurance companies because they don't take gambles like certain banks do. And so
Yeah,
if I trust my money, I actually put the majority of my money that I'm keeping inside for just emergencies, I keep inside a life insurance company for two big reasons. One is it's safer than the bank because they don't go out of business like the bank does. And then two, they also pay you a heck of a lot more than the bank. So, and it's tax free. So I might as well keep my money there, keep a little bit in the bank if I need to go get it today. But for the most part, I keep my money in that infinite banking policy.
Do you know the comedian Gallagher?
Yeah.
He does a bit about that. Like you go to the bank and you put a bunch of money in the bank, and then when you want to take it out, no, no, don't take it out. We'll give you a loan. We'll give you some new money. And this
Yep.
new money ends up costing you a bunch of money. It's kind of weird. You put your money in there, and now you take the same money back out, but it costs you more.
Yeah. It's like the question you asked earlier, right? Is debt bad? Well, if debt were so evil, why do the banks have so much of it? Even the good banks, right? I'm not even talking about the banks go out of business, but think about it. When you put $1 into savings, they now have debt to you, right? Because what's debt to you, right? It's when I owe people money. And do they charge you interest? Yeah, they charge me interest. Guess what you do every time you put $1 into savings? They now owe you the money. It's not theirs, it's yours. And they pay you interest, don't they? But you never see a banker call you up and say, okay, so hold on now. Like I just watched the Dave Ramsey show and he told me debt is dumb. And we got so much of it on our books that even though you've done business with us at our bank for the last 30 years, we're paying you your money back. We're going to cash out your savings account. Take it back. We don't want to pay any more interest again because that's bad. That's dumb. You never hear a banker do that because they're smart. Dave is dumb. That's the truth, right? He's an idiot. He's the guy that has got an agenda trying to pitch you this crap, but it doesn't work. But then, yeah, like
nice now.
No, I mean he's a good. I believe he has a good heart, but I'll tell you, I just did a react video on my channel where he actually blasted his own co-host for trying to teach correct information on his own show. And he blasted the co-host saying, I don't know where he's getting that from. These guys are dumb. And because he was talking about like, how much can you pull out in retirement? Well, his co-host said what I've been saying for years and years, saying, if you put money in the stock market, like the mutual funds and those retirement accounts, you shouldn't pull out more than 3% in retirement. Well, Dave said, no, you should be able to pull out 8%. Not realizing that the stock market doesn't return 12%, Dave. And if he had even been paying attention and not been asleep behind the wheel since the 1990s, he would know it's never paid 12%. But he's been teaching these numbers, and he teaches with such confidence and arrogance, really. It's not even confidence, it's arrogance and blindness. And he tells people this, and he even said it. I even caught him on that video saying, he's like, no, because his other co-host said, well, what's wrong with 3%? What's wrong with taking less? He says, because people lose hope. Because people will actually think that it's not enough. Like they'll have to save more. And I was like, exactly. That's what I've been saying, is that you do have to save more in reality than what he's been selling all this hopium and hoping that it's going to work out. It doesn't. But just because he comes with this judgmental, positive, confident or arrogant attitude saying, well, that's dumb, that doesn't mean it's any more right. It means that he's just lying to you, By the way, Dave, where does he make all his money? In the two places I recommend: business, your own business, and real estate investing. That's where he's made all his money. But what does he tell you to do? Don't do that. Put your money in the stock market. Gamble it there, which hasn't worked, for years and years. So that kind of thing just drives me nuts. When I hear financial talking heads, start to teach something that either one, they haven't done themselves, or two, hasn't worked for decades, yet they still preach it because they're paid by you buying into that kind of crap. That's what pisses me off, if I were to be blunt.
Some hidden agenda. You kind of wonder, it's just not adding up. What's going on here?
Yeah. I mean, they're the reason that I can't quit. I mean, I don't ever want to retire anyways, right? Because I've been able to retire twice by the time I was 39. But I'm telling you, like every time I hear this kind of stuff and then people buy it hook, line, and sinker, only to find out years and years later that they're the ones that suffer. Not the people that give the advice. They're held harmless. It's always you as the American, right? You as that person, as the person that always has to pay the price. You're the one that ends up like losing out on your life, literally, like my dad did. Like that's the one thing, is that my dad was like the strict money saver, depression era mentality. We can't afford this. Money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think I am, made of money? Those kind of things he'd always teach me growing up.
Yeah.
But when I sat down with him, when I used to be a financial advisor 20 years ago, I sat down with him for the first time, saw his numbers. And when I looked at his numbers, he said, Chris, I'm 61 years old. I want to retire today. And I said, all right, let's take a look. And then I look at it, even though he's debt free, paid off his house early, been stuffing his 401k full. Guess what? I said, Dad, if you want to retire today at 61, you better hope you die in 5 years, because that's when you'll run out of money.
Right.
He had to work till into his 70s to make up for that into his 70s. And even now, he's now almost 80. He's trying to stretch his dollars as long as he can, right? He's trying to stretch them out because he keeps living longer. That's the kind of, and again, he bought all that same advice you've been taught forever. And so I know it's not a funny or enjoyable conversation, but it's the thing that drives me. It fuels me to keep me going to do this.
Very good. Well, we've gone for almost half an hour. So I'm going to sign this one off, but we should do this again. I think we should do it again. I got you got my gears turning here with some of my investments and how I went about it. And it kind of brings me back to when I was with that guy and he did that seminar on that infinite banking thing and got me rethinking about where to put them eggs in that basket.
Yeah, the only problem is those guys are insurance agents. They're not investors. So that's why it didn't make sense. They're just trying to sell you what makes them more money, not what helps you.
Right. And that's what I like about it. You're calling it like it is. Because
Yep.
Taking the veil away from some of this stuff. Like there's some stuff that's going to go down with some of these guys that are doing these scammy things on the internet because they're making people register as a business and you got to show your real face and use an EIN number and you have your location, your address that you're really at. And it's fine. That's good. It's kind of pulling that cloak away, all those entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
So here's how we get a hold of Chris there, right? Money ripples.
Right.
And that's the idea. You drop $1 in a lake and it creates more money, right?
That's right. That's how it works.
Well, thank you for taking the time. I'm going to pop into the green room here and then sign this thing off and we can have a little bit of a chat. Okay?
Sounds great.
Thank you, Chris. Very much appreciated. Here he
You bet.
goes. Well, this stuff is fascinating to me. I'm telling you. Here's how to find out more about it. His website is very basic too. It doesn't get into a lot of in-depth stuff. You don't get lost in it. So check out moneyripples.com. Other than that, I'm going to sign this off. Enjoy. Thanks for being part of the Synergy Cafe and MagicBrad. Peace, love, and happiness. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be good, be kind, be nice. Did I say be nice? Yes, be nice.